Content on this channel, including but not limited to videos, audio, commentary, graphics, and descriptions, is created for informational, educational, and/or entertainment purposes only. All opinions expressed are solely those of the individual creators and do not represent the views or positions of any other person, company, organization, or entity. Any references to persons or entities are based on publicly available information, personal opinion, or satire, and should not be interpreted as factual statements unless explicitly stated as such. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental unless clearly noted. Cosmographic software assumes all damages through their actions in relation to or incurred by any prosecution for any shared content on this channel.
As we started the last video, gather around, everybody. Let's sit around the campfire. Let's lay down in bed. I don't know what the hell you're doing. It doesn't really matter. But I figured with the first story, I would go over bullying. See, there's a difference between trolling by today's standards or messing with somebody online or bullying. And my experiences with bullies was I never put up with them. Just like I'm not putting up with cosmographic software who are using the legal system to bully. There's a difference between words and violence. Now, when I was a young child, I was always shorter than the other kids, but I never shut my fucking mouth if they talked shit. So, in first grade, my teacher, she was also a bully. She went by the name of Miss Long. And yes, I'm going to use actual people's names. Maybe they'll see this video someday and know that they were a piece of shit. Then again, 20 of us really exist. I don't know. We're not the same person we were a few minutes ago, and we won't be the same people in another decade. So I had this teacher, and I was left-handed growing up. So what happens? Well, she sees me writing with my left hand, and I can't write with my right hand. She says it's right for a reason. A joke that I've made to many people over the years. If you're a right-leaning guy, right means correct, all that funny stuff. As a right libertarian, it's funny to say that because it pisses people off. And she basically tells me that she's going to keep me after school and tell my parents that I can't write, which was absurd considering, if anybody remembers, I was already doing things like Hooked on Phonics. My mom and my dad brought us up on the cassette tapes. I'm sorry, I'm recording this while a little sick. Anyway, so we're brought up on this stuff. I go into school. She then starts keeping me after class. And what does she do? Well, Mrs. Lull, which, fuck her. At least she's dead now, even though I don't wish death on people. At least she's fucking dead. She was a piece of shit. So she would keep me after class and slap me with a ruler. Every single time that I tried to write with my left hand, or I would use my left hand to be my primary hand, she would hit me with a ruler. The same year, I had an individual I went to class with. His name was Storm Police. Yeah, legitimately, that was his name. Storm Police. He had a mother named Lori. She lived in a shitty household where his father was a horrifically abusive alcoholic who was violent and crazy. And he would scream and shout and had crazy eyes continually. Hit me quite a few times when I used to have to go and stay there. His son, Storm, of course, we didn't even become friends until 5 or 6 months into the year. And the only reason we became friends was because he kept beating the shit out of me. Because I would talk shit and tell him where he could shove it. So that was my first grade year. Then, of course, a year and a half, 2 years later, my dad had a job situation. We had to move to a lot of houses, and we had to bounce around where we were living. And I run into these kids. This one is pretty funny because I used to skip school. In second grade, one of them would bully me. And his name, of all fucking names, if anybody remembers the 90s, it was Richard Simmons, like the exercise guy. He would bully the shit out of me. Then the following year, by third grade, I had a teacher named Miss Elcoat. She was very supportive and a wonderful teacher. But these two fuckers, this is around, I want to say 1999, 1998. It was around the time that Star Wars Phantom Menace was announced. So What happened? Well, these two fuckers kept beating the shit out of me. I go out for recess, and I remember one time I was on the swing set. Next thing I know, I got shoved off of it. So at the time, I think they had, for the first few months, it was gravel, and then they changed it to wood chips. Actually, it might have been my third grade year, they changed it to wood chips. So with wood chips being shoved into my skin, under my fingernails, by the way, that really fucking hurts. That's a memory that's stuck into me. Having splinters shoved under your fingernails, and in a couple cases was actually done intentionally by these people. So the two people was David Sinclair and a Richard Simmons. And the funniest part was Richard Simmons was a fat piece of shit. So they're beating the shit out of me one day on the playground. I looked at him and I said, "Fuck you, Richard, dick." Next thing I know, I get a punch in the face. And I think I made a joke to him saying, "At least the real Richard Simmons isn't fat." And then I ended up at the school nurse's office. Fucking funny to me. But you see, if you're going to get bullied, you got to stand back up and let your ass get beat. That's really what there is in life, is you just let your ass get beat. If you can't win the fight, like I've been disabled, I guess, my entire life from various determinations, and the government recognizes it, then does it, then recognizes it, and so on. But don't be a pussy, all right? Like, don't be afraid. You just look at the guy in the eye. You let him beat the shit out of you. If you like, you raise your arms. You know, I grew up with my brothers and sisters. My younger sister, by the way, she'd kick my ass. She'd kick the shit out of me. And believe me, that's happened more times than most would even realize. Anyway, continuing this story. Going into middle school, I was bullied by quite a few people because I had a bigger mouth and bigger muscles. You know, kids, as they get older in high school and middle school, they start to get a little bigger, a little stronger. That wasn't the case for me. I did get smarter, but I still ran my mouth. So I got my ass beat from 5th grade all the way till high school. Actually, I still got my ass beat in high school. But that's coming up. So I told this one guy, and I can't actually think of his name. He was only there in 5th or 6th grade. I think it was 6th grade for about 6 months before he went to juvie. He stabbed me with a knife. Not a knife, but like a what are those things you get from like restaurants or something, because they didn't give those out actually in school, but he had one from like one of those little packets you get with like a napkin, salt and pepper and all that. And he broke it and stabbed me in the arm with it. And it's like, what the fuck, bro? By the way, that shit fucking hurts. Another one that happened actually years before that was a individual. We were sitting in the cafeteria in middle school. This would have been about 8th grade. So I want to say this was around 2002, around the time that Star Wars Attack of the Clones came out. So we're sitting there. We got there early. The bus arrived. We had a bus driver named Miss Bush. And Miss Bush let us off the bus. We went in and then sat down. I got Pop-Tarts, the old brown sugar and cinnamon Pop-Tarts. And this one kid kept trying to cause a problem with me. So I don't remember fully what happened up to the point. I was eating my Pop-Tart. I was talking with my friend, and they used to give out these little juice packets. But the little juice packets had like a, on the top, like an aluminum foil thing. And he threw one of those aluminum foil peels at me. I guess because I told him his mom was a bitch or something, if I'm trying to remember it. And then he got so angry that he decided to throw a punch at me. Now, of course, me having 2 older brothers and a younger sister who was a tomboy, someone throws a punch, my immediate response is to throw my hand up. For some reason, I had a mechanical pencil held in my hand. So he throws this punch. I raise the pencil up, and full force, basically, he punches that pencil. Though he did threaten to shoot me a day later with a pistol. So I guess that's why that popped in my head. So he throws the punch, and the pencil goes between his ring and middle finger on his right hand, spreading his fingers apart. And so his hand is now locked because he's got this hard plastic and everything in it. He screams like a little baby, starts crying, and runs off to the office. About 5-10 minutes later, maybe longer, I don't know, because you usually have about 25 minutes for the breakfast. A couple officers come in, and I have to go to the office. They actually sent me home that day. My dad was fucking pissed and had to subpoena for the court record on that one, or not the court, the camera record, and threatened to take him to court. And so that one was fucking hilarious. Then the next day, he threatens to shoot me and bring a gun to school. So I ended up reporting that to the office, and then I got suspended, and then my dad threatened them with a lawsuit. So they removed the out-of-school suspension and gave me a in-school suspension for 1 week, which was, I basically got to go sit in a room, mind my own business, and I read, I think it was Harry Potter or something, for 5 days straight. So that was pretty cool. And then the teachers would just send the work to the in-school suspension. Around one of my first in-school suspensions. And it's not the last time. I've been suspended many times. Going from there, I had many other bullying situations. And people realized, especially by high school, where I still have like a chunk of flesh in my lip that never healed. It's just scar tissue. There was this kid by high school. Oh, yeah, actually, let me continue with the middle school stuff, because one of my brothers, my older brother, not my oldest brother, was kind of a piece of shit. So my oldest brother actually would help me in fights and would defend me. He used to stand up. He's actually the main brother I talk with these days. I still talk with all of my siblings because I don't want to be like my dad and my mom are with their siblings, which is a different story to tell in the future. But my oldest brother used to see me, run my mouth, and he would get really annoyed by it. But he would also stand up and say, hey, keep it, civil, keep it words. Don't turn to violence. Don't try to threaten. Well, one day, my brother had just gotten into high school. My older brother and I were still in middle school because my older brother's a year older than me. And this kid, who was a year younger than me, kept fucking with me. There was we used to have recess from 5th grade all the way up. Like 6th grade, we would have outside time or whatever the hell it was. And I was covered in mud. I jumped over a puddle one time where I fell on my ass. Like, not on my ass, but on my back. And so I had mud in my hair, and I had to go through the rest of the day like that. And by the way, that's nasty. It's sticky. It just clumps up. So I'm sitting on the bus, and this one kid keeps saying fungus and all this stuff because my hair has like white and green and all this shit clumped up in it. And they didn't even let me go to the bathroom to clean up. So I called him a Christian idiot and a moron. A few weeks later, he starts saying shit to me on the bus. I start talking more shit to him. My oldest brother, of course, we haven't gotten to the high school yet. So he's in high school. I want to say this is around 2003 or 2004, maybe. And this kid, a year younger than me, twice my size, gets so fucking mad. And I just said something like, Jesus is a whore and God's a slut and your religion is bullshit. Because he kept proselytizing and preaching bullshit. And then he called me fungus and said all this shit. So I started talking shit to him. So the bus driver, Miss Bush, tells me I have to go to the front of the bus. So I go to the front of the bus, sit down. He keeps yelling insults. So I yelled an insult back and I said, shut the fuck up, you redneck hillbilly. Next thing I hear is, what the fuck did you say about me, you fucking piece of shit? He comes running up the fucking aisle of the bus and I get punched in the side of the head. That's like Mike Tyson said. A lot of people talk a lot of shit until they get punched in the face. Except I talked more shit. So my older brother is sitting a couple of rows behind me, doing nothing, saying nothing. Well, that's fucking stupid. You should be helping me, bro. So what do? The only thing I can think of, same thing that happened before. I reach in my pocket, I pull out my mechanical pencil, I get hit in the face one more time, and I just stabbed him in the stomach. Full force, didn't pull the thing out, just stabbed the pencil straight into his stomach. His eyes went so wide. And then he screamed that I was trying to murder him. And then we both got removed physically by the police from the bus because apparently the bus driver or somebody had already called the police or something had happened. Then we're sitting in the office and I've got two individuals sitting there. Well, the first one was our vice principal, Mr. Brown. And then the other guy was the principal, Mr. Gearball. And I can't think of what the superintendent's name is, but they called him, they had officers out, and the cameras on the bus recorded the whole incident. They threatened to expel me and expel this guy named Robbie. And I can't think of his last name, but his name was Robbie. He's an ass. Oh, I know what it was. It was Robbie Graham. He's a fucking asshole. Family, stupidly Christian. You know, that's not really very Christian of him trying to beat the shit out of a guy who's half his fucking size. But you think I'm ever going to shut my fucking mouth and not talk shit in my life? Dude, it proves I'm right if you have to try to beat the shit out of me for talking shit to you. Anyway, didn't get suspended. My dad once again threatened a lawsuit. Years after that, now going into high school, there's an individual. Oh, he's this individual. His name was William. And I can't think of it. I think his last name started with William Riggs, I think was his name. Which you can look up, by the way. Look up Michigan William Riggs. He raped a 16-year-old girl or 15-year-old girl. He was a piece of shit, too. He was held back in 5th grade. He was one of my best friends growing up. And then suddenly his cousin Lori started a bunch of bullshit. They said that I was the reason that he got in trouble the first time. So he basically created an image of me that didn't exist because I didn't even talk with him for 2 years. So when he reached high school, by the time I was in my sophomore year, he made my life a living hell. He would steal things from my bag, go after me constantly. And eventually it got to a point where I was walking down the hallway and suddenly I feel someone kick me in the back of the leg and I hit my face straight down on the ground. I stand back up. He's standing there with his little cronies laughing, and I just fucking slugged him in the face. The shock on his face was hilarious. So I then walked away, get to the rotunda to head out to where the buses are. Next thing I know, my backpack is yanked, and I am just getting my ass beat. Lip gets busted, fucking black eye, just punched in the gut, just stunned completely. And it was probably about a minute or two of getting my ass whaled. And then I wobbled my way out to the bus to sit down, and this one girl I had a crush on, her name was Alicia Eddy. Anybody can look all this up. I don't really give a shit. She sits down next to me. She's holding me. And then they kicked me off the bus because apparently I got into a fight again. So I have to wait now. My dad was working 2 jobs. I think he was working at the University of Michigan and he was working at Home Depot. So now I have to wait for an hour or two for my dad to come and pick me up. This kid, William, gets put in suspension for 2 weeks, plus out of school suspension for a week. Then they threatened to suspend me, and my dad, of course, did the same thing and said to him, I'll sue the shit out of you. So they had to review the cameras, and, 20 plus years ago, the cameras really ran at about, I think, 5 to 10 frames a second, maybe 15. And they were recorded at like 480p. So in their determinations, though, because there were 2 cameras that caught the incident, he did kick me to the ground. He denied it, even though there was a fucking camera. And then they saw that I retaliated. And by retaliation, they said that I had to do after school suspension plus 1 day of Saturday school. See, this is the thing that I see a lot, though, also in American school systems, is there's just assholes. and they'll kick the shit out of you and beat you up and then play the victim. And it's the same thing when you're out in the real world. But let's continue to when I lived in Florida. My favorite story of all of this, of bullying. So I had to move to Florida in 2007, and I was at the end of high school, basically. I was doing, I want to say, actually, this might have been mid-2008. I was doing cross work with college. I forgot the term for it. I'm drinking, telling this story. That's how you do it, guys. You just drink and have some fun. So anyway, I used to have this class at the end of the day. It was a woodshop class because I had to have extracurricular bullshit credits or whatever the hell it's called. And I would sleep during that class. You know, my focus was on AP Calculus. It was on my AP Chemistry and Science courses. But I didn't sleep well. I was under a lot of stress during that time. I also had to go to Palm Beach State a few times a week because I was trying to get in fully. So it's this whole fucking thing. So wood class, I'm sleeping. Now the thing is, I come from the greater Detroit area. I didn't realize there's a difference between the gangs down in Florida to the gangs in Michigan. See, the gangs in Michigan, they're usually actually not as bad as you would think. They're still kind of shitty, but they're not as bad as you would think. They'll like at least some of the gangbangers, they'll listen. Not the fun kind of gangbanger. Sadly, it's not a porno film. But the ones in Florida, well, there's this one guy who would try to, like, I would fall asleep sitting at my desk. I was just so tired. He would tie my shoes to it. I used to drink Volt Energy. He would steal the Volt Energy out of my bag. So one day, I waited and I watched. And when he reached in my bag, grabbed my Volt, grabbed my Doritos, I turned around. They're all giggling and laughing. I faked snoring and all that. And I just said to him, "You keep this shit up, I'll have you back on a boat to Haiti faster than you can say deported." Yeah, his face went from giggling and laughter to pure anger. Then his little buddy next to him had the audacity to say to me, "I see you walking home every day. Oh, we can get you anytime we want." I used to walk home with a girl. Her name was Devin. So one day I'm walking back down towards where we were living, and this fucker pulls up, and yes, it's the most stupid Hollywood shit, pulls up in a fucking Cadillac, points his fingers out the window and makes a little gun motion. You know, he's got the index and middle finger and the thumb up, and he's doing that shit. So I flipped the fucker off. Next day, 3 of them pull up as I'm walking home. This time, they made it very clear they had a fucking gun. So I flipped them off again. Went home and told my mom and my stepdad about it. And they basically had to drive me and pick me up from school every day after that. So all of this added up to what? Nothing. I wasted your time with some wonderful, stupid stories. But I guess at the end, we can always end this way with a little advice. Even when it comes to corporations or the government itself, don't put up with bullying. There's a difference between online shit-talking, and there's a difference between that and real-life shit-talking and physical violence. So to end this first episode of Superdinoman Storytime, I hope you learned something. I hope you had some sort of entertainment. But companies and the government and people around you, don't let them push you around. Even if you can't win. Life is too short.